Hello and welcome to this Transforming Learning Fife pedagogy video on Stylus, using Stylus and screen recording for feedback. Feedback is most effective when learners understand not only what needs to improve, but how to make those improvements. Using your Scriva Stylus alongside screen recording allows teachers to model the improvement process, making thinking visible and demonstrating the actions learners can take in response to feedback. In order to use screen recording, what you're going to do is you're going to swipe down from this corner here. This is the little icon that you need for screen recording. Obviously, I'm screen recording this video right now, which is why mine's is on, and you can see that that is on. If you don't have that option in the control panel, the way to do that is if you press and hold the screen just in this section of the screen here, it'll pop up and you're going to click Add a Control. And with Add a Control, you will tap Screen Recording and you'll get this little icon. Now, obviously, I already have the icon there. It's already recording. You'll just tap that and it'll give you a 3-second countdown, and that is where your screen recording will start. Now, what you can also do is if you long press, so press and hold on the icon, it'll pop up and it'll say to you where the screen recording will be saved. So Photos Copilot or Microsoft Teams, we would suggest using Photos because then it'll just go straight into your photo library. And this part here, you need to make sure that the microphone is on if you're wanting sound, because every so often that'll reset back to microphone off. So if you just tap that and make sure that your sound is recording. In this example, we will use digital ink with the Scriva Stylus and screen recording to improve a learner's review of the Iron Brew World Cup advert. It is a response piece of text for writing. So before making any improvements, it's important to revisit the success criteria. As we review the learner's work, we'll consider an opening statement with information about the subject and the intended audience. We're going to review information about key parts of the adverts. We're going to talk about descriptive language, personal opinions supported by examples, persuasive language, and a concluding summary or rating. Obviously, we're not going to go through every one of these today, but if you were doing this in front of a class, then you could do all of that. By referring to the success criteria throughout the process, learners can see clearly how feedback links to the intended learning. So to begin, we're going to click on the assignment. Now, when you're doing this, I would suggest that you can either screen record and talk through it, maybe using the highlighter, or you can highlight and write and annotate. You know your learners best. Obviously, if you do screen record, then they can go back to it and watch it, and it's quite accessible. So let's begin by identifying what the learner has done well. So I'm going to take the highlighter with my Scriva Stylus, which is this bit up here. I'm going to go for the green highlighter to show the success. So the learner has included an opening statement which introduces the advert and identifies the intended audience. So it says the advert is aimed at football supporters and people enjoy watching sport. They also talk about what the advert actually does. So I'm going to simply highlight this part. So it shows, and the advert is aimed at football supporters and people who enjoy watching sport. And then what I'm going to do there is I am going to say that at the bottom, I'm going to put strong opening statement. I probably should have picked the normal pen here rather than the highlighter, because that doesn't make that very accessible. I'm actually going to go and change that. Obviously, there is also the typing and the voice notes, which we have spoken about in another video. So you can also go and look at that. But I'm just going to pop strong opening statement. Identified audience. And introduction. And I'm just going to put a little arrow there so that you can see exactly what that is. So using the digital ink, I can highlight the strengths and explain why they're effective. This helps reinforce successful strategies and provides learners with a clearer understanding of what quality looks like. And as we move through the piece, rather than simply writing comments such as add more detail, we can model exactly what those improvements might look like. So for example, I'm going to just change my pen to the highlighter to pink. And where it says, I think the advert is effective because it is funny, I'm going to just highlight that here. This meets success criteria for including a personal opinion. However, the success criteria also ask learners to support their judgment with examples. So using the stylus, I might change to the pink pencil and I might annotate and explain I would explain you have given opinion. Now you could do that again, you could do that as part of the screen recording, but you have given your opinion. Even better if you add evidence from the advert. You could then at this point model the improvement. So you could say something like, for example, the exaggerated reactions of the football fans create humorous moments that make the advert memorable for viewers. Notice that I'm not simply telling the learner to add evidence, but I'm modelling what adding evidence looks like and explaining why it improves the response. So again, it's totally up to you the way that you go about this. You can do a mix of screen recording because that way you've got the verbal information. You can use your Screva stylus to annotate over it to highlight some stuff. You can add your text notes, you can add your voice notes, whatever way really works for you, or doing bits of everything. That way it'll give you the best sort of approach if you've got everything. Effective feedback should help learners close the gap between their current performance and the desired outcome. By combining screen recording and digital ink, teachers can make the improvement process visible. Learners can then observe the thinking, decision-making and editing strategies used by an expert. This supports metacognition by helping learners understand not only what successful writing looks like, but how it can be achieved. Importantly, this approach moves feedback beyond simply identifying what is missing. Instead, it demonstrates the process of improvement and provides learners with strategies they can apply independently in future tasks. Because recordings can be saved and shared, learners can revisit explanations at their own pace and refer back to them during drafting, editing and reflection. Also, if you screen record these, you can do it in an anonymous way, and then by that way you can then put it in your Showbie so that other learners are able to see, especially if there's sort of misconceptions that go much further than this individual learner, but actually if it's something that a lot of the class are finding tricky. So using a stylus and screen recording transforms feedback into a learning opportunity. Rather than simply telling learners what to improve, teachers can model the improvement process and demonstrate how success criteria can be applied within a real piece of writing or any work that you're doing. By making thinking visible, this approach helps learners develop the knowledge, skills and strategies needed to improve independently and become more confident writers.